And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Going to be doing at least one, maybe two Best Ball Mania drafts over on Underdog on this live stream. I am pumped to get after it. It is the best time of year, guys. It is draft season. It is peak optimism season. I got a lot of takes to share on the live today. We're going to be doing a live draft, so you'll see how I'm thinking about some things. Also, have a beta version of Underdog Sync in the Walter Picks app to show on this live stream today. Just hopped in a Best Ball Mania lobby. $25 entry, $1.5 million first place prize. Let's get it today, guys. We got, what's up, Sam? How we doing, Kylo? Great to see you as well. Long time no see. We're getting after it, man. It is officially draft season, Kylo. The NHL is over. The NBA season is over. Shout out the Panthers. Shout out the Boston Celtics. Of course, let me make sure the TikTok live is right here. Yeah, I think we're good. Can you hear me okay on the YouTube live? I'm testing out a new mic today. We got the second overall pick in this draft. Let's go. We'd love to see that. Let me refresh this over on the Walter Picks app, and you guys can see in a second once this draft starts, going to be able to sync to the Walter Picks app. What do you think the best draft strategy is for this year? It's a little too early to say, Joe, what the exact best strategy is this year. It's that time. Let's fucking go. That's what I'm talking about. How's your day? My day's doing great. For everyone in the TikTok live, I got some bold takes ahead of me, above me. I'll talk through them on the YouTube live if you're watching live on YouTube. But there's going to be a lot of good strategies, I think, this year. Honestly, this feels like one of the years, at least so far. I disagree with average draft position in all different types of places. And as does the Walter Picks app projections. We'll go through that in a second once this draft kicks off, which is starting right now. You can see a little bit of the updated Walter Picks draft tool over on the live. And Christian McCaffrey does not go first overall in this draft, so we'll take him second overall. I don't think I've seen that yet. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio. You can see a live draft board in a real league happening right now on the YouTube live. I have the second overall pick. I just took Christian McCaffrey. Off to a good start. Tyreek Hill goes third overall. My YouTube live name, @WalterPicks. Also, the link is right in the TikTok bio. You're like 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live if you're watching live on TikTok. Or chill on the TikTok live. You'll hear me talk through the draft and some of these takes above me here. But I have done maybe 150 best ball drafts to this point. For sure, too many drafts. For those that don't know, best ball is a format of fantasy football where all you do is the draft. There's no in-season management, no start-sit decisions, no trades. Your best lineups automatically submitted for you at the end of each week. And I'm playing in tournament-style leagues here. So if I win my league, then in week 15, I play a bunch of other people that won their league. And then in week 16, I play people that won those leagues. And then week 17, it's everyone that's left for a $1.5 million first place prize. I have been drafting a ton of Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is quarterback proof. We just saw him go 5th overall in this draft. He's been pretty frequently going after CeeDee Lamb, which I agree with that. I think the first 2 picks, you could argue the order all day. I think the first 2 picks need to be CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey in every single draft. I'd argue Bijan Robinson should be the 3rd overall pick, especially in home leagues where running backs are even more important. In these leagues, you'll see that I'm doing on Best Ball Mania here in Underdog. It's extremely wide receiver heavy. I don't think the home league drafts in August are going to be this wide receiver heavy, but I've been taking a ton of Bijan Robinson here in these drafts too. He's going 7th and 8th overall. He could easily lead the league in touchdowns. I don't think people quite understand Bijan Robinson's receiving role last season. If I just pull up the game logs here on the YouTube live, look at these receiving numbers for Bijan Robinson last year. These are like legit wide receiver 2 numbers. Some weeks wide receiver 1 numbers Bijan's putting up in the passing game, and it's very clear he's going to get more work in the running game, a legitimate chance to lead the league in rushing touchdowns. So I like Bijan a lot where he's going. But yeah, I'm taking Justin Jefferson over Tyreek Hill. I'm taking him over Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson over Tyreek Hill, I don't feel amazing about. I think there's a very good argument for Tyreek over Justin Jefferson. He certainly had better numbers last year. But when you look at the stretch, Justin Jefferson had with Nick Mullins. It was 5 weeks, I think, at the end of last season, averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game with Nick Mullins. I'm really not too scared about how he's going to do with Sam Darnold or how he's going to do with J.J. McCarthy. Yo, we back, Tyler. We are back, man. George Pickens said he's the best receiver in the world. Yeah, he's not. But he definitely should do better this season with Deontay Johnson out of town. Who would you draft at 1? I'm still drafting Jefferson, I think. Yeah, I'm not drafting Jefferson at 1 this year. It's either Christian McCaffrey or it's CeeDee Lamb. The more I think about it, I really think it's CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb should be the first overall pick the more I think about it. I've been on the CMC train for 3 straight years. He is getting 1 year older. But yeah, it's CMC or CeeDee Lamb. I'm honestly, I wouldn't knock you either way. I think if you go with a guy that's not CeeDee Lamb or Christian McCaffrey, you're probably making a mistake at the first overall pick. But yeah, I think it's Lamb or McCaffrey. I have Jefferson at 3 though. In the drafts I've been doing on Underdog, again, I've done like 150 drafts already on Underdog. I'm doing one live on YouTube right now. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube live. Smash the like button if you're watching live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button too if you haven't yet. But on YouTube, I'm in a draft right now. You can literally see the draft board unfolding. I'm about to talk through what I'm seeing here in this draft board, but I'm about to be on the clock. I had the 2nd overall pick, and I got Christian McCaffrey with the 2nd overall pick. CeeDee Lamb did go 1st overall in the draft I'm doing over on YouTube. Again, link to the YouTube live right in the TikTok bio, or look up Walter Picks on YouTube. Definitely will get to some sleeper picks in later rounds. You're about to see me draft in these later rounds. And I can't stop these running back builds. If you guys are in the Discord, I sent a message this morning of a draft I did. I'm about to do something similar here. I know I started with Christian McCaffrey, but I also like to get unique builds in this big tournament style format I'm drafting in now. HN goes, and we're going to snag Malik Neighbors here with my 3rd pick. So I started this draft. I had the 2nd overall pick. I started this draft, Christian McCaffrey with the 2nd overall pick. In the 2nd round, at the end of the 2nd round, I grabbed Saquon Barkley, who is on the Eagles now. I want to talk about that for a second. And then in my first pick of the 3rd round, I got Malik Neighbors, who I absolutely think has a chance to be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this season. I think he's going to be an absolute stud immediately. And I think he has a very good chance to get over 30% target share on that Giants offense. And hopefully they got something back there that can throw him the ball remotely close to him. Because if they can, Malik Neighbors is going to be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. And I really like these rookies too for fantasy, peaking at the end of the season where it matters most in fantasy. People often overlook the heavy importance that the fantasy football playoffs has in how fantasy football works. I really just care. I care about making it there. And then I just care about weeks 15, 16, and 17. Like if Malik Neighbors is a top 10 wide receiver in the back half of the season, but he's like wide receiver 25 in the first half of the season, I'll take that all day with my 3rd round pick for sure. Saquon Barkley, guys, this feels a lot like the David Montgomery situation last year with Saquon Barkley. We have a player who is by all means one of the more talented running backs in the NFL, but he's also going from a situation with a bottom 10 offensive line to a top 5 offensive line. We saw the same thing with David Montgomery last season. He goes from the Chicago Bears, horrible offensive line, to the Detroit Lions, probably the best offensive line in the NFL. And what does he do? David Montgomery, I think he led the league in touchdowns last year. If he didn't lead the league, he was definitely in the top 2. I can pull that up in a second, but David Montgomery was top 3 in the league in touchdowns for sure. I think Saquon could lead the league in touchdowns this year. It depends how many tush pushes we get from the Eagles this season, but do not underestimate the impact for Saquon of going from the New York Giants offensive line, bottom 10 in the NFL, to the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, top 5 in the NFL. Even without Jason Kelce, still top 5 offensive line in the NFL. Very excited for Saquon. I feel like the knocks against Saquon and Jonathan Taylor this year is it's hard to project a ton of receiving volume for them, especially Saquon. Jalen Hurts historically not throwing the running back slot. Got to compete with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith now. He has not competed with talent like that in the passing game in the past. A lot less dump downs I expect for Saquon this year, but I think he can easily make up for it in touchdowns. All right, let's talk through what I'm seeing in the first 3 rounds here, guys. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. Come to the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, you can see a live draft I'm in, a real draft, $25 draft. This is a tournament on Underdog. If you have never used Underdog, you've never played Underdog before, it's best ball drafts. There's nothing you do other than draft. It is the best format for this time of year. And if you've never played there before, if you use code Walter, you'll get 100% deposit match. But this is a real draft. I only do real drafts. I'm not a huge fan of the mock drafts. I know a lot of people like the mock drafts. We actually do have a mock draft tool in the Walter Picks app now. If you guys haven't checked out the Walter Picks app yet, obviously check that out. So many improved features for this NFL season already out, and so many more coming very soon. All right, you can see too some updates to the draft tool in the YouTube live. If you haven't seen the Walter Picks app in a while, we got a nice draft board view here in the target section, much improved as well. Some sleeper picks later in the draft. So if I just pull up the list here, and there's definitely, I'll talk specifically running backs and wide receivers. There's definitely some quarterbacks you'll likely see me target late in this draft. But in the underdog draft so far, if I scroll way down this list, I really think Trey Benson, I have this in the TikTok live above me. Trey Benson will be a league winner. He will be a league winner. If James Conner suffers an injury, Trey Benson is winning leagues. And even if James Conner does not suffer an injury, Trey Benson can win leagues. I think the Cardinals offense will be one of the most improved offenses in the NFL. I think Trey Benson brings something in the passing game that James Conner does not. So in PPR leagues, I love the standalone upside there. And then James Conner has never played an entire season in his entire NFL career. He has missed at least one game in every single season. That at least one game that James Conner is missing this year, Trey Benson is going to be a top 12 running back in fantasy projected for that week. I feel very good about Trey Benson, where he's going in like I think he's going like round 7, round 8. His ADP is 106 here over on Underdog. I bet it's going to be much later than that too in home league drafts. Tyjae Spears is my most drafted running back so far in the 150 drafts I've done. I cannot stop drafting Tyjae Spears for very similar reasons. He's got the standalone PPR, catch passing upside, but he's also an injury away from winning leagues. I feel very good about that Titans offense changing a lot from what we've seen with the Derrick Henry era the past few years. New offensive coordinator in town for the Titans. They're instantly going to be one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL, and Tyjae Spears is definitely going to benefit from that. All right, I'm about to be back on the clock here in a second. You'll see some of the other sleepers I got later in drafts. Where you like Amon-Ra going in PPR? Yeah, our projections team was talking about the top part of the receiver room this year, and our lead data scientist has Amon-Ra St. Brown arguably is the second best receiver in fantasy football this year. I think there's an argument for that for sure, but I'm taking Justin Jefferson over him. I'm taking Tyreek Hill over him. I'm cool going Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jamar Chase. I think that one's pretty close. But yeah, where he went in this draft, I don't think Amon-Ra St. Brown should go past pick 7. I would take him over Breece Hall. All right, I'm on the clock here again. And looks like the top running back available, James Cook. We got McLaurin and Chris Godwin at the top of the draft tool here. Oh, we got the Mahomes and Hollywood Brown stack staring me right in the face, though. I do really, really want that. Do I go Mahomes first or Hollywood Brown first here? Got to go Hollywood Brown. I think it's a little safer. We'll see if this guy with the first overall pick snipes Patrick Mahomes for me. He already has 2 running backs too, so he needs a receiver, which is why I went Hollywood Brown there. Hollywood Brown, Mahomes stack, I'm liking a lot. I have a note above on the TikTok live too about Hollywood Brown. I'm in a live draft right now. That's what I'm talking through. If you're watching live on TikTok, why Kyle Pitts top 3? I'm confused. I'll talk about that in a second. Nick Chubb is a very, very, very risky pick. But he definitely could come back late in the season and be at full strength. But it's going to be a while until we see Nick Chubb at like full strength, Nick Chubb that we're used to. I'll talk about Kyle Pitts in a second once he gets drafted in this draft I'm doing live on YouTube right now. But we just secured the Pat Mahomes, Marquise Hollywood Brown stack. I think Marquise Hollywood Brown can be a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football this year. Guys, we have seen Marquise Brown. I'll pull up his game logs here in the Walter Picks app on the YouTube live. Again, come to the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, it's 2 clicks away. In the TikTok bio, you can see a live draft board that I'm in, that I'm talking through, and some game logs that I'm pulling up on the screen here too. But Marquise Brown has a long history of earning targets. Look at the target shares here for Marquise Brown in 2022, in 2023. Very, very few games you're seeing here that he was at full health and seeing under 15% target share. Multiple games we're seeing where Marquise Brown had over a 30% target share. Guys, the games on the Kansas City Chiefs where Marquise Brown gets over a 30% target share, he is going to be a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy a lot of those weeks. Absolutely love him in his best ball format. I think he's extremely underrated. And it's been all positive, so much positive coming out from Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs about Marquise Brown this entire offseason, ever since he joined the team. He's been practicing with Mahomes well before OTA started and training camp starts in a couple of weeks. But also, Rashee Rice is going to get suspended. In all likelihood, we're seeing I think it's going to be likely a 3 to 5 game suspension for Rashee Rice. I'd probably, if you had to project a single number there, I'd probably say it's going to be a 4-game suspension for Rashee Rice. Possible that suspension doesn't come till next year. There is a suspension coming, though, for sure. And it's probably going to be this season. Marquise Brown's going to benefit from that as well to start the season and get that connection going with Mahomes. On the Patrick Mahomes note, too, he's one of my favorite QBs to target if I'm going to go elite QB in drafts, which I don't love doing because there's a lot of strong late round QBs, especially in season long leagues though, like home drafts that are coming up in August for everybody. I think I'm going to be leaning towards the late round quarterback strategy in a lot of those because there's a lot of strong late round quarterback targets this year. But in this best ball format, where I really need to have some massive, massive weeks, I do like to lean elite quarterback a little bit more in this format. And Mahomes is the guy I think to really target. Look, he went after in this draft. Patrick Mahomes went after Lamar Jackson. He went after Josh Allen. He went after Jalen Hurts. He went after Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud went the same round as Patrick Mahomes that I snagged him in the beginning of the 5th round is where I got Patrick Mahomes here, stacking him with Hollywood Brown a couple picks before. Patrick Mahomes is coming up his worst season in his NFL career. He had absolutely no receivers last year. He's still produced over 5 weeks with 20 fantasy points. He had just a couple games under 15 fantasy points, but still extremely consistent from a floor perspective. But you just go back like a couple years and like he was a top 5 quarterback in almost all of these weeks in 2022. This is going to be the best receiver room that we've seen Mahomes play with since he had Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce still in town. Marquise Brown added Xavier Worthy, which is a rookie version of Deshaun Jackson. If he can stay healthy, Xavier Worthy is definitely a very elite wide receiver prospect. He's not just a speed. He's not just a speed guy. He is a route technician who also is a speed guy. Xavier Worthy can be like a Deshaun Jackson type player playing with Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, I definitely like the Mahomes stacks this year. Team 3 is looking like the best, according to this comment in the YouTube live. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way. And he won the Super Bowl. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous that Mahomes also won the Super Bowl while having his worst season of his career in the regular season, at least, and having basically no receivers. Team 3's definitely got some strong receivers here, and he got the Lamar Andrews stack. Yeah, definitely a strong start for him for sure. I do really like getting Isaiah Likely late too. Even if I get Mark Andrews, I think he's got a lot of upside, contingent upside too. If, like we saw last year, Mark Andrews suffers an injury. All right, we're about to be back on the clock here. Let's see what the Walter Picks app is saying in terms of top targets. Zamir White projected pretty high this year. I think I need to be leaning into the wide receivers still, though. Rashee Rice is sitting there. I might get him next, but I think I'm actually going to go. We got Jordan Addison. He just got snagged. Jackson Smith and Jigba's next. Yeah, I'm going to go Brian Thomas here. And then I'm going to try to get Rashee Rice next just because I have Mahomes and get that stack going. I do like the upside for Brian Thomas. Rashee Rice gets sniped, of course. Probably shouldn't have played around with that. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson next and keep building this wide receiver room since I did not draft. I only drafted 1 receiver or 2 receivers in my first 5 picks. Go wide receiver after that here. Pull down this comment so you guys can see the full draft board over on YouTube. Again, we're live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. Come to the YouTube live if you're watching live on TikTok. You can see a live draft. A live draft with this is a real draft, not a mock draft. $25 entry, $1.5 million first place prize on Underdog. I am honestly, guys, I'm loving this start. I'm feeling pretty good about this start, especially with me ranting on live and not following as closely as I usually do. We start this draft. I have the 2nd overall pick. Falcons players getting overrated every year. This is the thing. Sorry, tangent from this draft. Getting to some of these TikTok comments because I got some bold takes above me on TikTok, so I'm not surprised people are bashing the Falcons. You got to understand with the Atlanta Falcons, guys, this is by far the best quarterback situation, the best offensive situation we've seen for the Atlanta Falcons in the past 5 years. It's really not even comparable. They are going from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had one of the highest catchable target rates in the NFL last year, top 5 in catchable targets. Kyle Pitts and Drake London were in the bottom 5 in catchable target rates in their respective positions. They are going through a complete transformation of the amount of passes that they are going to see. Number one, the passing volume is going to go way up because Arthur Smith is out of town. I think this year, I've been saying basically for the last 4 or 5 years since I have been a fantasy football content creator, one of the biggest edges in fantasy football is identifying every year the Adam Gase effect. And this year, you got to go back like 4 years to get the Adam Gase reference at this point. I feel old just saying that. But every year there is a coaching change in the offseason where a team goes from such a bad coach to just like a neutral or slightly good coach that the transformation of that change is often overlooked in fantasy football. That definitely could be the case with the Falcons this year, going from Arthur Smith, who refused to give Bijan Robinson a workhorse role, refused to give his best players elite target volume, often using Jonnu Smith over Kyle Pitts. Jonnu Smith's out of town now, by the way. The Adam Gase PTSD is real. Yeah, for sure. I'll touch on Alvin Kamara here in a second. He's definitely been going really late. I liked him really early in some of these drafts. I've been fading him a little bit more recently. But yeah, the Falcons are going to have a far, far, far superior offense than they had in the past couple of years. And the pass catchers and the most elite players in the team are going to benefit. That is going to be Kyle Pitts. That is going to be Bijan Robinson. And the thing that I feel like people are often not understanding with Kyle Pitts is that he's actually like arguably the best tight end prospect we've ever seen through the first 3 years of his career. But at the same time, everyone thinks he sucks. Partly because of Last year, he was coming back from an injury, not really at 100%. You can see I have his game logs pulled up on the YouTube live. Come to the YouTube live, by the way. If you're watching live on TikTok, you can see everything I'm pulling up on screen and talking about. Also, a live draft I got going on the YouTube live that you can see pick by pick. This is a real draft too. There's no better way to get an actual sense of what average draft position and picks might look like in your actual draft by looking at a real draft with real money on the line, like I'm doing on YouTube right now. Anyways, Kyle Pitts in this draft, he was already taken. He went, where'd he go? He went in the very, very beginning of the 6th round. He got picked after Dalton Kincaid, after Mark Andrews, after Travis Kelce, after Trey McBride, after Sam Laporta. I would take Kyle Pitts over Dalton Kincaid. I would take him over George Kittle. I don't think I'd take him over Mark Andrews, Kelce, McBride, or Laporta. But I do think he could easily outscore those guys in a far better quarterback situation. 1 year now, additionally removed from his injury, back to 100% health. And I think he's going to be back to close to 100% route share, which he was not at in most games last year, guys. Over half the games last year, he was at only running a route on 75% or fewer of the pass plays. So he has opportunity to play more. He's going to see way more targets. And the offense in general is going to score more touchdowns. This is part of the reason I'm in on Pitts and on Bijan Robinson. Kyle Pitts, guys, he had 3 touchdowns last year. He only had 3 touchdowns. The year before that, I think it was only 2. He's got 5 touchdowns in the last 2 years, and he only had 1 in his rookie season. Like, he could score more touchdowns, Kyle Pitts, this season. He has a chance to score more touchdowns in the first half of the season than he has in his entire career. Touchdowns are what drive fantasy football points so much too, especially in half PPR, non-PPR formats. I think Kyle Pitts can really surprise a lot of people this season, and I'm definitely still in on Kyle Pitts. I think the answer to the test this year when it comes to tight end and tight end strategy, I think drives so much of your fantasy draft strategy. It's Kyle Pitts. If you miss on Kyle Pitts in like the 6th, 7th round, if he slides there, then it's Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson's the answer to the test. If you miss on Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson going after all the elite tight ends. But he had 3 touchdowns in his last football game for like 40 fantasy points in the playoffs. The Dallas Cowboys added 0 pass catchers and have one of the most efficient passers in the NFL. Are back on the clock here. I don't have a tight end yet. The guy picking next to me did take Trey McBride, so he's probably not going to take Brock Bowers. I think I'm going to go Jonathan Brooks here. I think I got Deontay already, though. I want Brock Bowers. I'm going to go Bowers here. I might go Bowers and Njoku here. I hate getting boxed out at tight end. The drop off at tight end is astronomical this year. After you get past Dallas Goedert, I mean, the drop off from tight end 12 to all the other tight ends is just so scary. He goes Jordan Love there. Yeah, I'm going to go Njoku and snack 2 elite tight ends. Both, of course, have week 10 buys. I never consider buys when I'm drafting. Sometimes that comes back to bite me, especially in this format. But I refuse to let bye weeks be a deciding factor in my draft decisions. I'm just drafting the best players with the best strategy possible. So I just shored up the tight end position here. Again, remember, this is a best ball format, a little bit different than a season-long draft, but I went tight end. I will not need another tight end probably this whole draft. I'm fine just giving up tight end points in week 10. Hopefully can make up with it with 2 underrated right before the tier drop-off of tight ends, sort of the back end of tier 2 tight ends here, Brock Bowers and David Njoku. One hot take for you, too. Brock Bowers could have been the best receiver in this draft class. In a draft class, historically good wide receiver draft class with Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think should be a first-round pick in fantasy football. Malik Neighbors, who I took in the beginning of the 3rd round of this draft, he should be going in the 2nd round, probably a fantasy drafts. And I think Rome Odunze is also extremely underrated. He's going in the 6th round of fantasy drafts right now. We'll probably go even later than that in your home leagues. The Bears might have the best 3 receivers in the entire NFL. Odunze is definitely not to be slept on. But all that being considered, Brock Bowers still might be actually the best receiver in this draft class. There's a hot take for you on this one. Do you like Laporta or Kelce? I'm definitely going to lean Laporta over Kelce. And part of the reason I'm scared of Kelce, I've barely taken any Travis Kelce in like the 150 best ball drafts I've done so far. And it's not because I don't think he'll have some massive fantasy weeks, and he could legitimately be the number 1 tight end in fantasy football in points per game. I'm just so fearful that in the back of the season, when you're in the fantasy football playoffs, is when the Kansas City Chiefs will be resting Travis Kelce. We saw a little bit of this last year. Let me pull up the Travis Kelce game logs here. You can kind of see it. And it makes a lot of sense from a real football perspective for Travis Kelce getting up there in age. What is he, 34 years old now, I think? Travis Kelce is definitely close to that. Let me pull this up. I don't want to say he's older than he is, but if my gut says he's 34 years old, and yeah, he's 34.7. He's going to turn 35 this NFL season. And you look to the back part of last season, and you see his snap share starts to dip a little bit into the 80% range. He sees a little bit less target volume. He has 2 absolute duds. He had 4 straight duds in the fantasy football playoffs last year. He had 5 points, 7 points, 3 points, 0 points in the fantasy football playoffs last year. That is what I'm scared of. I definitely expect top 3 elite tight end production from him for most of the season, but the fantasy football playoffs is where you win the fantasy football leagues. I have more confidence in Sam Laporta to be there at the end than Travis Kelce, which is why I lean Laporta over Kelce. But I still think Kelce is top 3 tight end probably in most drafts. But yeah, I won't be getting much of him for that reason. Obviously, in the season-long drafts, you could always trade him midseason if you were really scared of that, though. Yeah, so Alvin Kamara is going really, really late in these drafts. Again, I'm doing a live draft. He's a league winner, bro. Grab him. $6 million a year. He ain't cracking the top 30. Yeah, we'll see about that, Will. I already did a rant on Marquise Brown, but I'll get back to that in a second. But if you come to the YouTube live, guys, link is right in the TikTok bio. I'm doing a live underdog, $25 underdog draft right now. You can see the draft board. We are in round 10 right now. I'll let you know my team through the first 9. So through the first 10 rounds, I'm about to have my 10th round pick up in a second here in a moment. But Alvin Kamara, there's a comment here on the YouTube live. Alvin Kamara going really late. Yeah, Alvin Kamara is going in the 7th round of these drafts. I've seen him slide as far as the 8th round. Usually he's going around 7, around 8. And the real fear around Alvin Kamara is, one, he's not going to see workhorse usage. Like we've seen really his whole career, Alvin Kamara has been in sort of a split backfield. He's been fine in that scenario for fantasy. He was over 13 fantasy points. And this is half PPR scoring too. We're looking at in these game logs on the YouTube live almost every single game last year. Guys, Alvin Kamara has been top 3 in running back target share for 7 consecutive seasons, which is part of the reason I want to be in on him. But he is an aging running back, which is always a little bit scary. And he also is not in a super elite offense where he might see a lot of touchdowns. But the competition is really not that scary. I'm back on the clock here. I definitely need to continue hammering receiver. I'm going to take Dobbs with his first pick. We're up to 5 receivers now. I don't need any more tight ends. I'm not going to take a quarterback when I already invested a draft capital pretty high up in Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs play the Steelers in week 17, so I would like to get some Steelers stacks here too. I don't hate getting Zeke. The Eagles play the Cowboys in week 17 as well. I could maybe get the Eagles running back stack with Dowdle later on too, and then wrap up the running back room early so I can tack on a few extra receivers at the end here in this draft. So let me read you the team here so far. This team would have been extremely elite like 3 years ago, looking at the running back room. Hopefully I'm not drafting too old here, but I had the 2nd overall pick in this live YouTube draft I'm doing right now. Again, link to the YouTube live is in the TikTok bio. You're 2 press your finger away from the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. You can see the draft board as it's unfolding. Sorry, let me scroll down a little bit so you guys can see me on the clock. All right, so in this draft, I can pull it up here too in the Walter Picks app, where we got a good draft board view now in the Walter Picks app. This is synced to the Underdog draft. This is a beta version, not live in the app for everyone yet, but I have access to it. So I had the 2nd overall pick in this $25 best ball mania draft, $1.5 million first place prize. This is a tournament structure. So I got to beat hundreds of thousands of people to get that $1.5 million prize. But first, I just got to beat this league. I got to beat the other 11 people in my league. This is a half PPR format. It's a best ball format. So my best lineups can be automatically submitted for me at the end of each week. There's no starting, there's no sitting, there's no adding, no dropping, no trading. All we do is the draft. All right, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley were my first 2 picks. I had the 2nd overall pick, got CMC. At the back end of the 2nd, I got Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, do not underestimate him going from one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL to one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I cannot wait to see Saquon behind an actually elite offensive line. My 3rd round pick was Malik Neighbors, the rookie wide receiver for the New York Giants. So I go McCaffrey, Barkley, Malik Neighbors. 4th round pick, I go Marquise Hollywood Brown, for everyone talking smack about Marquise in the TikTok live. Guys, Marquise Brown has a long history of earning targets. He has done so around good receivers. He's done so as the only good receiver on his team, but he has a long history of earning targets. You go back to his game logs the past few seasons. I just had them pulled up a little while ago on the YouTube live. We see multiple games, almost every single season, over a 30% target share. We see almost no games for Marquise Brown under a 15% target share. Elite players earn volume. It is earned, and Marquise Brown has always earned it. And all of the talk from the Kansas City Chiefs, from Patrick Mahomes himself, this entire offseason is very, very positive about Marquise Brown. Rashee Rice is going to get suspended. In all likelihood, he's going to be out for probably the first 4 games, would be my projection. Possible that suspension comes next season, but there's a good chance he's suspended for the first 4 games. That's going to be good for Marquise Brown. Xavier Worthy is definitely going to have a role here. He tweaked his hamstring in OTAs. I think he'll be fine. I like drafting him too. But I think Marquise Brown is going to, after Travis Kelce, lead the Chiefs in targets, That's a guy that I want on my fantasy football team for sure. I think he's going to be in a near every down role and really see some huge spike weeks. So this is a best ball format too. So I really like the spike weeks from Marcus Brown. I stacked Marcus Brown with Mahomes in this draft. So I went Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Malik Neighbors, Marcus Brown, Patrick Mahomes, then followed it up with Brian Thomas, Deontay Johnson, Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Romeo Doubs, and then Ezekiel Elliott. So I got 3 running backs right now, Zeke, Saquon, and McCaffrey. I'm going to try to get Rico Dowdle to follow it up here with my next pick if he's still there. All right. Let's get back to some of the comments here. Why Jefferson over Hill and Chase? Yeah, so I feel very good about Jefferson over Chase because Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and he is quarterback proof. Chase has a better quarterback, but he's also he's more target competition than Justin Jefferson. And I also think he's a little bit lower on the totem pole in terms of elite wide receiver talent than Justin Jefferson. Last year, we saw Justin Jefferson play with Nick Mullins for 4 or 5 games. He averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game in those weeks. He only had 1 game under 20 points or 1 game under 15 points in that stretch. He is quarterback proof. I'm also a little bit fearful of the Joe Burrow wrist injury still. There's been a lot of murky reports I've seen about, will he be 100%? Is a very rare injury that he's dealing with? I'm also just a little bit nervous about that. I'm really not that scared about Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy being able to throttle Justin Jefferson's fantasy production back. I think Justin Jefferson is one of the safest bets in all of fantasy football. He is in his prime. He is the best wide receiver in the NFL. So yeah, I'm just going to close my eyes and bet on that. So I would go in the beginning of drafts. It's Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb are the top 2. And then I'm going Justin Jefferson or Bijan with 3rd or 4th picks. I think there's a stronger case for Tyreek than Chase. Tyreek did outperform Jefferson in basically every single metric you're going to look at from a fantasy perspective last year. More fantasy points per game. I think he had more touchdowns. He did play a little less snaps, but it didn't really matter because every time Tyreek's out there, they're manufacturing him touches. He's got a better quarterback situation too. I'm drafting best ball format right now. I care about week 17 game environments. Justin Jefferson gets the Packers in week 17. That's the fantasy football finals. Tyreek Hill gets the Browns in Cleveland in week 17. So that's part of the reason I've been leaning Jefferson over Tyreek too. But yeah, I'm going Jefferson over Chase pretty easily right now, and I'm not too scared about the quarterback situation. All right, we're about to be back on the clock. Josh Downs is still there. Definitely have liked him late in drafts. I add kind of back in on Jahan Dotson too. I think that he can be good for some spike weeks with Jaden Daniels this season. We got Jalen Wright there. I really don't think I need to go running back. I'll definitely take Dotson first here. I still don't really think I should be thinking about quarterback. Definitely not going to take a tight end. So we're going to go receiver first. I might go Polk next if he's still there. I also like Jermaine Burton late. 2 rookies that I think will be on the field at the end of the season. I think I'm going to lean Polk though, and maybe I can get a Drake May stack here at the end, very, very late. This is, by the way, of all, if you look at the wide receiver ones getting drafted for each team, the New England Patriots are the latest of any team. I think it's like not even that close. Jaleel Polk. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Jalin Polk? Is it Jalin Polk? For the New England Patriots, he was their first rookie wide receiver drafted. They also drafted Javon Baker this year. They got Kendrick Bourne coming off an injury. Tyquan Thornton, the ghost of Tyquan Thornton, maybe he'll make the team. Hunter Henry's back. I mean, who's going to lead this team in targets? It's probably going to be Jalin Polk. Demario Douglas, I would probably put at wide receiver 2 as well, and he'll probably be available late too to get this backdoor stack with the Pats. But Drake May, I also think is pretty underrated here in these underdog drafts. He's going like around 16, 17, 18 at times, and he has like sneaky rushing upside. Dog, your name pronunciations are crazy. Yeah, Pat, I've always struggled with the name pronunciations, but yeah, someone's got to tell me how to pronounce Jalin Polk because I've been saying I don't know what I've been saying. I'm just gonna call him Polk. All right, we got. Do you like Porter Kelsey? But he should shake that off, right? What was this question about here in the YouTube live? Too bad he would have T-Law QB. Jalen. Oh, it's Jalen. Nice. That's easy. Jalen. I appreciate that TikTok live. Lamb wide receiver 3. Ayuk to the Jaguars. Yes, sir, Trey Benson. Ayuk to the Jaguars didn't actually happen, right? I'm not there's not breaking news on this live right now. We're not doing this Pitts thing again. We are absolutely doing this Pitts thing again. Yeah, for sure. We're doing the Pitts thing again because this is the first season where Kyle Pitts actually is a real quarterback. This is by far the best quarterback offensive environment that the Falcons will have been played in Kyle Pitts' career. He was playing with Desmond Ridder last season, guys. Not only was he playing with much worse quarterback play, but he also was dealing with Arthur Smith. How do you feel about Pitts not getting a single receiving target in the red zone? Yeah, I don't think it was a single receiving target in the red zone, but I would also chalk a lot of the red zone usage up to Arthur Smith, who was using Jonnu Smith in the red zone over Kyle Pitts. So he had 5 red zone targets last year. It was not 0. Fact checking that one, he did rank 34th in red zone targets. Kyle Pitts also ranked number 1 in unrealized air yards last year. Kyle Pitts also ranked number 1 among all tight ends in air yards last year. He had the highest percentage of air yards of any team's tight end in the NFL. He was 11th in targets, though. Kyle Pitts is being used as an elite wide receiver at the tight end position. This is Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews type of usage that he's seeing, but he was near the top of the league in uncatchable targets. That's why he led the league in unrealized air yards. That's air yards that were not caught. His true catch rate ranks top 10 among tight ends. But his actual catch rate was not in the top 10 because so many of his targets were not catchable. His catchable target rate, guys, was 64%. Only 64% of Kyle Pitts' targets last year were catchable. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins ranked in the top 5 of the league in catchable target rate. So he's going from one of the worst catchable target rate situations in the NFL to one of the best. And he had 6 career touchdowns in 3 years. Like, he is due for some touchdown regression. I think there's definitely a chance Kyle Pitts scores more touchdowns than he has in his entire career in the first half of the season. And yeah, I'm okay blaming Arthur Smith for a lot of that red zone usage. It's the same thing with Bijan Robinson. I'm not saying I'm going to draft Kyle Pitts as a top 3 tight end, by the way, because why would I do that? He's going as tight end 7 in drafts. I'm going to wait and take him as tight end 6, tight end 7, especially there's going to be drafts where everyone in the draft just hates Kyle Pitts. Those are the drafts I'm going to be leaving Kyle Pitts with, and I'm going to be laughing all the way to the bank. All right, we got back on the clock here. I probably should go running back, consider QB. I'm probably going to wait for Drake May, though, hopefully with the next pick. The running backs get really gross as we get later here. Is Demario Douglas, is he still around? I think he might have just got snagged recently. We're going to go Ray Davis, take my first rookie running back. I do like taking stabs at the rookie running backs. I kind of don't hate J.K. Dobbins, too. Actually, if I'm going to do the Pats stack, the Pats played the Chargers in Week 17. So that could be a good running back to target next. I think, yeah, the Walter picks out. I should have checked this. I glossed over this. This Ray Davis pick was a panic pick. He's going to need a James Cook injury and somehow get rushing touchdowns over Josh Allen for that to pay off. I really don't like Chuba Hubbard very much, though, with Jonathan Brooks in town. Miles Sanders is still lurking there, too. At best, he's a handcuff running back with some PPR upside, and at worst, he's just a 0 and is competing for this RB2 role with Miles Sanders. I think Jonathan Brooks is very, very good, by the way, and his role is only going to increase over the course of the season. And J.K. Dobbins gets sniped. One pick before me, let's see. Roshan Johnson, I don't like that at all. I feel like I've taken maybe too many rookies, too, in this draft. Maybe I should go tight end. Oh, gosh. We're just going to listen to the Walter Picks app here and close our eyes and take Chuba Hubbard. And that's probably the end of our running backs here, too. So we got a quarterback and then maybe 2 receivers left in this draft. We are in round 16 now of this draft. I have first pick overall. Yeah, so first pick overall is either CeeDee Lamb or Christian McCaffrey. I'm personally leaning CeeDee Lamb. We say Kyle Pitts every year and he sells. This year is no different. That's the thing, though. This is the thing. That exact logic of we've said Kyle Pitts every year for the last few years, and it hasn't worked out. So why would it work out this year? That's the exact logic of why Kyle Pitts is a value in drafts, because so many people are thinking that way, that it's driving Kyle Pitts down draft boards to the point where he is a value. He went at the beginning of the 6th round. You can fill out most of your starting lineup this year before you have to draft Kyle Pitts. He went in the 6th round in this draft. He went after Dalton Kincaid, after Mark Andrews, after Travis Kelce, after Trey McBride, after Sam Laporta. I agree with most of those. I don't think I'd take Dalton Kincaid over Kyle Pitts. I think the Bills will continue to spread it out. And I think Dawson Knox sneakily ate away a little bit at Dalton Kincaid's role when they were both healthy last year. Dawson Knox was not healthy for most of the season last year. Dawson, be prepared if you draft Dalton Kincaid, who I think has a pretty high floor with Steph Diggs out of town for the Bills, but be prepared to be tilting on Sundays when it's Dawson Knox catching the 3-yard touchdown from Josh Allen and not Dalton Kincaid. That is absolutely going to happen in some weeks. I would take Kyle Pitts over George Kittle. And then I think, though, like I'm not going to reach for Kyle Pitts because I don't need to. I'm going to take him in round 6 if he's there. And if he's not, I'm just going to take Jake Ferguson in round 7 or 8 and be pretty happy getting the second best pass catcher on the Dallas Cowboys in one of the most pass-heavy and pass-friendly offenses in the NFL in round 7 and round 8. That's my tight end strategy this year. I'm going to wait and wait and wait. I'm going to get Kyle Pitts in drafts where people just hate Kyle Pitts when they don't realize that he's getting a massive, massive coaching upgrade. The Adam Gase effect is going to be in full steam for the Falcons this season, and he's getting a massive upgrade in quarterback. He's going from one of the lowest catchable target rates to one of the best catchable target rates in the NFL. So yeah, I'm in on Kyle Pitts. He's used as basically an elite wide receiver 1. He led all tight ends in air yards last year. His usage was actually still pretty elite, despite actually not even being out there for like more than 80% of the routes on passing plays in like over half his games. He led all tight ends in unrealized air yards. He led them all in air yards. He was number 1 in tight end usage. That's the most important usage stat that exists is air yards. That's the best volume indicator of usage. All right. I'd rather have Marquise Brown than Derrick Henry. Is that a hot take? Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely a hot take. I don't know if I'd agree with that one. Derrick Henry is such a tough one for fantasy this year. I've been taking some of him. He's going in round 3 in these best ball drafts. By the way, I'm live on YouTube right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, shout out to everyone on YouTube live. Make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube. Hit the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok. But I'm live on YouTube doing an actual draft right now. I got 3 picks left. Then I'll be running it back. I'll do one more draft on this live stream. This has been a fun one. I'm so pumped that it is draft season. Hopefully you guys can tell. I really do think that Derrick Henry is probably going to just continue being an outlier. Like he's been an outlier his whole career. I would argue, and I think there's a pretty good argument, and I know this is a pretty big statement, but I'd argue that Derrick Henry is the best rushing running back of all time. Like just the best rusher in the NFL of all time. And like there's a lot of evidence to back that up. He's the only running back in NFL history to have back-to-back seasons averaging over 100 rushing yards per game. He had back-to-back 100-yard rushing yards per game seasons twice. Like it's just my whole life, I feel like I've been waking up on Sunday mornings and Derrick Henry's rushing prop is at 109.5 yards, and he's cashing it consistently. All right, we got the Drake May stack lined up here. I might actually go Bryce Young, too, if he slides, since I do have Deontay Johnson, and I'll go with the 3 QB, 3 stack build here, even though I have Mahomes. Javon Baker sitting there, too. That's not the worst idea to complete the Pat stack. Also, I actually have been liking getting Clyde late in these Patrick Mahomes builds. We're in round 17, round 18 now. Javon Baker gets sniped. This guy's been sniping me left and right. He might be in this live stream right now. This guy drafted next to me. But yeah, Derrick Henry, like it's tough to be bet. And he snipes Clyde. He's absolutely in this live stream. My God, the 2 guys I just said I was about to take. We're going to go with the 3 QB build, even though we have Mahomes, which is probably suboptimal. But I do have Deontay Johnson, so I will get that stack. And then we'll take a wide receiver here to wrap it up with my last pick. It looks like this maybe got disconnected. I might have to log into my Underdog. This is still in beta, guys. Bring this back up. I'm in a bunch of slow drafts, as you guys can see here. Might see me make a couple picks in those in a second, but we're back in on the Walter Picks app. I do think like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the clear RB2 for the Chiefs, which is why I have been liking him a decent amount in round 17 of these best ball drafts. Jermaine Burton could be a good waiver. Yeah, for sure. Jermaine Burton's he has round 1 wide receiver talent, but he didn't end up going in round 1 of the NFL draft. Do you like Laporta or Kelsey? Yeah, I like Laporta. How does this draft work? Like, what is best ball? Yes, let me explain best ball again. Zach Lindsay in the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, I'm doing a live fantasy football draft. This is a real draft, $25 entry draft here. It's a Best Ball Mania contest on Underdog. I'm going to explain how the best ball format works in a second. I'll also explain just like super high level strategy that if you follow will absolutely make you a better drafter in this format. So how best ball works is all you do is the draft. There is nothing you do in a best ball league other than the draft. There's no starting, no sitting. There is no trading. There's no adding, no drop. So your best, it's called best ball because your best lineup is automatically submitted for you at the end of each week. This is why roster construction is extremely important in these drafts, because this is all you get to do. There's no adding and dropping. If your players get hurt, you're pretty screwed in this format. But that is true for everyone, which is why this is a fair format. Everyone in this draft right now is working under the same rules, the same settings. Nobody can add, drop, or trade, which is why in general you want 2 to 3 quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks is actually a little bit more optimal than 3 in the research that I have seen. I went 3 in this one because I do like to, the benefit of taking 3 quarterbacks is you get more stacks, and stacking is pretty important in best ball, especially this is like a tournament style where you want to optimize for week 17. And I had Deontay Johnson, and I wanted the Bryce Young stack. He slid a little past average draft position there too. Generally, you want 2 to 3 quarterbacks. You want 5 to 7 running backs, and then you want 7 to 9 receivers and 2 to 3 tight ends. If you follow that roster construction, you're probably already going to be drafting much better in this format. You can see a lot of people in this draft are following this format. Right now, I'm going to have a 3-5-8-2 build from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But yeah, that's how best ball works. That's a little bit about the best ball format. Also, if you've never used Underdog before, there's a code in the description of the YouTube live, but also you don't need to use that link. Use code Walter when you sign up. Helps me out, helps the Walter Picks company out, but also you get 100% first deposit match if you've never deposited on Underdog before with code Walter. So definitely take advantage of that. If you're going to deposit, you don't need to deposit. You can deposit $25. You'll get $50 of credit in the Underdog app. So you can definitely try that out. This is a $25 draft, but they also have drafts that are $3, $5, and much lower stakes if that's what you want to try out first. I'll do another draft after this too, so you can see a little bit more of my strategy and thought process during these drafts. We're going to be back on the clock here in a second. I think I'm going to go Kendrick Bourne for this Drake May stack. He absolutely has a chance to be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I think at worst, Kendrick Bourne at full health is wide receiver 3 on the Pats right now. I can complete this Drake May stack and wrap this draft up. I didn't invest a lot in the running back position here, but I did early in the draft, and then I waited a lot. A lot of times that's how I'd like to form my draft strategy in these best ball drafts, is if I invest a lot early in running backs, there's not going to be very many teams, guys, with McCaffrey and Saquon in this contest. There just can't be. So I got a differentiated lineup out of the gates, which is important in a big tournament contest like this. And then I didn't take another running back till pick 120. And I just hammered receivers. I took 2 tight ends. I took Pat Mahomes. Feel pretty good, honestly, with how this draft went on Underdog. All right, we're going to do one more Best Ball Mania draft on this live stream. We got analyzing my draft here on the left. And yeah, we got the stack identified with Marquise Brown and Mahomes. That McCaffrey Saquon running back feels really, really good when you look at it in this view. I'm not going to lie. I feel pretty good about how this one wrapped up. All right, we're going to go back to this list view. If you're watching live on how did we join your draft, join the next Best Ball Mania draft on Underdog right now, because I literally just joined and there's it failed. Too late. You can't join. I got the 4th overall pick. But if you want to follow along with the draft, this is a real draft, $25 entry fee. This is not mock drafts. One of them will get hurt 100%, unfortunately. Probably not 100%, but I mean, yeah, injuries happen in the NFL. There's a good chance that the player you're drafting gets hurt. That is the world we live in. That is why every single pick in your draft matters. And why roster construction and in general strategy matter a lot. It's not just player analysis. Any player can get hurt. And I try not to overrate my ability to predict injuries just in general. I think a lot of people do overrate their ability to predict injuries. The way I like to approach it is the player currently injured? Because if he is, I'll pass, man. Fantasy football is hard enough as it is. I don't need to draft players currently injured. The injuries are going to find my players. I don't need to find players with injuries. That's how I like to think about it. But if they're fully healthy and they're going at an injury discount, sign me up for that all day. There's league winners like that every year. Christian McCaffrey was a league winner like that for really each of the last 2 years. Even still last year, he was falling to 4th pick in a lot of drafts because of this injury history that he had when he had played, hadn't missed a game in 2 straight seasons. This year, I think the injury discounts actually made my most recent TikTok. If you guys want to go back and watch that, was about players that are coming off of injury-riddled seasons, but that are now fully healthy. One of them was Joe Burrow, who I still have a little bit. I have most fear about him of everyone in that video, just because the risk seems a little bit questionable. But at full health, he's a value right now. He's going at QB 8. The other one is Cooper Kupp. He's going in the third round of these drafts. Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb starts this draft. I'm going to go Jefferson, assuming he doesn't get taken. I assume this guy will go Tyreek. And I'll live up to what I'm saying on the TikTok Live. I'm taking Justin Jefferson right now in this live draft over on YouTube. Link is in the TikTok Live, by the way, if you want to watch this draft live. I'm going Justin Jefferson over Jamar Chase. I'm going Justin Jefferson over Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going Justin Jefferson over Bijan Robinson. All right. We just made that pick. I got to scroll down here to get in this, and we can sync in the app, and that's definitely going to be a nicer experience. All right. How do you feel about the Chargers, LOL? Yeah, I'm pretty in on the Chargers in general. It feels like a coaching upgrade overall for them. I think that people are going a little bit too crazy with how run heavy they think they will be. When you look at the running backs on the Chargers, like how could they really be that run heavy? They got Gus Edwards, who by all means has been an efficient running back in the NFL, but never really a workhorse running back. He certainly could have some decent touchdown upside, but I've always been a little bit of a Gus Edwards hater because he catches no passes. But then they have J.K. Dobbins coming up back-to-back brutal season-ending injuries, who has been very, very good every time he's been healthy. He just hasn't been healthy very much. So it's tough to trust a guy coming off the injury history that J.K. Dobbins has. And then they draft Kamani Vidal in the 5th round. And like there's some encouraging stuff out there about Kamani Vidal, but he's still a 5th round rookie running back. Like he could easily be dust and be a 0 and not even play. And then that's it. That's the running back room. They got a bunch of other guys that could easily get cut in training camp. So like it makes me want to be in on either Gus or J.K. Dobbins, the two guys that know the system from the current coaching staff in the past when he was the coach for the Ravens. But yeah, I'm in on Justin Herbert. I'm definitely in on Ladd McConkey. I think Quentin Johnston, like if he slides a lot in these best ball drafts, I've been willing to take stabs on him. Joshua Palmer, I definitely prefer over Quentin Johnston though. Quentin Johnston is probably just not it based on last season, but we have seen there is historical precedence of guys having horrible rookie seasons and being able to bounce back and break out in year 2 or year 3. Devontae Adams is probably the biggest example of that. Devontae Adams, if you go back, you look at Devontae Adams' rookie stat line and Quentin Johnston's rookie stat line, very comparable. You could say that to a lot of rookies that busted too. So like not to say that Quentin Johnston's going to be Devontae Adams, but just that it's possible to break out after a bad rookie season. I wouldn't write him off completely. All right, how much does this different best ball formats on Underdog change draft strategy? It changes it, Mark, like a decent amount, almost like mostly because these Underdog drafts skew insanely wide receiver heavy. I mean, so wide receiver heavy. You can see it in this draft right now. There was only 3 running backs taken in the first round. I will not be in a single home league this year where only 3 running backs are taken in the first round. Like in some of my high stakes leagues, I'm telling you, it's going to be 8 or 9 running backs taken in the first round. All right, I'm on the clock here. I'll get back to this question in a second. And Saquon sitting there again. I just took Saquon. What's this Brandon Ayuk report here? Meeting with Niners goes well, supposedly. Debo and oh man, I kind of want to just go Saquon again. I feel like I'm taking him too much, but I kind of do like going against the grain a little bit with these early wide receiver builds. I'll let Ayuk and Debo slide. I'm probably going to go with, I do like trying to get A-Chain in round 3. I'll go with one of these receivers. Can't go Devontae Smith. I just took Saquon. Debo Ayuk go right next. I doubt A-Chan's going to fall to me in the 3rd round here. But yeah, the biggest thing with shifting strategy is making like you can't zig too much while others are zagging. When everyone's taking this many receivers, like you need to be making sure you have like 4 or 5 receivers through the first 7 rounds of these drafts, or you're just so far behind that it's going to be so tough to keep up on the wide receiver points. That's probably the biggest shift in like overall strategy. And then it's just roster construction in general. Like I was saying a bit before to this question here earlier from Zeth about just like how best ball works. You want 2 to 3 quarterbacks. You want 2 to 3 tight ends, 5 to 6 running backs, 5 to 7 running backs, and like A-Chain gets sniped. And am I going to go Malik Neighbors again? No, Malik Neighbors already got taken. I might go Cooper Kupp here. The Walter Pickstaff has Kupp as the next best receiver. I've been taking him a lot in these drafts too. I'm going to go Kupp. The Jefferson, Kupp, Saquon start. All 3 of these guys are first round picks just last season. I do not hate it going with some of the bets here to start out. I started this draft. I had the 4th overall pick. Started Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp. Feeling decent about that start. But yeah, in general, like it's about roster construction so much in this format. Because the other thing that's really different about this format, right, is because it's only the draft. There's no start sits. There's no trades. There's no ads. There's no drops. Like roster construction is the only way to save yourself from injuries and from, the spike weeks and the dynamics of the season with how this format works, which is also the reason, like, if you invest like I did in this last draft that I did earlier in this live, I started that draft, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley. I didn't take another running back for like the next 120 picks. Like if I invest early in running backs, then I'm going to move away from that position for like a while, so I can try to catch up at the other positions. That's a little bit else how the strategy changes. And also, this is a big tournament. What app is that? Can you move the window up a bit? Yeah, I can move the window up a bit for sure. This is the Walter Picks app. Check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. Best way you could possibly support me is just downloading the Walter Picks app. It's free, and tons of these features you're seeing on the live stream are free. And the premium subscription is also like $5 to $10 a month, depending on the subscription you choose. So definitely check it out. It's free to download in the YouTube description, in the TikTok bio. It's going to help you crush your drafts. This app is not only going to help you crush your drafts, it's going to help you with trades and start-sit decisions and rest of season rankings, custom your league settings in season. You can sync your ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo leagues. You're seeing right now the beta version of Underdog Sync, which I have going on right now. That is not out for everyone yet, but it's probably coming soon. But it also is not just for fantasy. It can help you with betting too. Yeah, so check out the Walter Picks app for sure. Use code SAM when you sign up too. Do appreciate that. It's a free app. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description. Check it out. But that's the app that you're seeing on the screen right now. Thanks for shouting that out. Ben, lots of L takes, they're saying in the TikTok live. Yeah, so let me rattle off the TikTok live bullets I have above my head for everyone watching on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm in a live draft right now, real draft, $25 draft for a $1.5 million first place prize. You can watch it live. And this live stream will probably make more sense to you because I'm ranting about the draft pretty frequently throughout these lives. But for everyone on the YouTube live, and link to the YouTube live right in the TikTok bio. For everyone in the YouTube live, here's all the takes I have above me, my spicy fantasy takes as it stands right now, heading into the fantasy football season. Justin Jefferson, I'm taking him over Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase. I think he's quarterback proof. I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. Maybe CeeDee Lamb takes a small edge there. I'm taking Lamb over Justin Jefferson in fantasy, though, for sure, given the two different pass game environments and offenses and just projected volume for these guys. But yeah, I'm taking Jefferson ahead of Tyreek and ahead of Jamar Chase, where almost nobody else is doing that. I did that in this draft. I took him over Jamar Chase, where average draft position has that different. I'll rattle off the rest of these after I make these two picks so I don't panic pick here. And I'll probably could try to sneak in that Christian Kirk, of course, goes. Travis Etienne, I have barely picked him. I also haven't taken much Mark Andrews. I feel like if I take Andrews, I'll box everyone out, and I'll take Lamar next. We'll see how that goes. People really like stacking in this format, so it's possible I could sneak Lamar in with that Andrews pick. If not, I'll probably go back to wide receiver. I'll also consider these guys. All right, now that I've queued these up, I can keep going back to the spicy takes I have on the TikTok live. Yeah, so I'm taking Jefferson over Tyreek and Chase. I feel less good about the Jefferson over Tyreek than I do of the Jefferson over Chase. Tyreek was absolutely insane last year and better in almost every fantasy metric than Jefferson. But I still think Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL, and he's quarterback proof. And he also in best ball, which is all the drafts I'm doing right now, I care about week 17 game environments. And Justin Jefferson's in the dome against the Green Bay Packers in week 17. Sign me up for that all day long. I think Bijan Robinson in home leagues, he should be the third overall pick. It should go CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, then it should go Bijan before Justin Jefferson. Bijan Robinson and Lamar gets sniped from me, of course, in this draft. I swear some of these people drafting around me are in this live just tilting me. He goes with the stackless Lamar Jackson just so I can't get the Lamar Andrew stack, of course. And we'll see if I can get Hollywood Brown here again in this draft, or if I go with Keenan instead. I'll probably go Isaiah Likely late too with this Mark Andrews pick, and Hollywood Brown gets sniped. Man, I'm getting sniped left and right here in this draft. I'm doing live on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. You can see me in a live draft right now. I'm on the clock in kind of a tough situation. I think I'm going to go Keenan here, and then maybe I'll get a Caleb Williams or a Odunze stack on the way back. Odunze probably will get picked before my next pick, but I'm picking a lot of vets here too. I'm not feeling great about the overall age, the average age of this lineup. Like this is, I feel like I'm going to look back at the end of the season, this team, and some of these guys might be a lot dustier than I'm thinking at this current moment. But I've started this draft 4th overall pick, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Mark Andrews, Keenan Allen. Not a single youthful player other than Justin Jefferson on this team. Saquon, I guess, is still like a little youthful, but he's in the back half of his career at this point. All right, going through the spicy takes over on the TikTok Live again. Jaden Daniels. Verified to continue. I've never seen that on the TikTok Live. Jaden Daniels is going to outscore Anthony Richardson. Now, I don't think that like this is a likely outcome, but I think it's much, much, much more likely than the current market thinks, the current fantasy football community thinks. We just saw Anthony Richardson get picked in this draft. I'm doing live on YouTube. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, hit the YouTube link in the TikTok bio. Come watch a live live best ball draft, $25 real fantasy football draft I'm doing on YouTube right now. You can see the draft board as it's unfolding. Man, I also I'm panicking on the clock. I'm not even looking over at the Walter Picks app because I'm staring at the comments in the draft board. But anyways, Anthony Richardson's going. Just got picked in the 5th round. It went Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. The next quarterback off the board was Anthony Richardson. And we're not going to see Jaden Daniels get picked, the rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders. For those of you who are just catching up to speed here in the NFL as we head into the NFL preseason, Jaden Daniels isn't going to go off the board till quarterback 11. Pick outside the top 100 picks, probably round 7, round 8. That puts him at. Whereas Anthony Richardson's going round 4, round 5, right around these other elite quarterbacks. Guys, if you compare the college production from Anthony Richardson and Jaden Daniels wins that by a landslide. Jaden Daniels is a far superior passer than Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the cannon that Anthony Richardson has. He doesn't have the physical tools. Anthony Richardson's arguably the most athletic quarterback in NFL history. He was, if you just look at the combine metrics, he's the most athletic quarterback in NFL history. So that's pretty exciting. But Jaden Daniels' rushing production was actually just as good, if not better, than Anthony Richardson in college. And then on top of that, he was a much, much more prolific deep passer than Anthony Richardson in college. I feel pretty comfortable saying that Jaden Daniels is a better passer than Anthony Richardson, and he could at least potentially match the rushing production of Anthony Richardson, which is where this take is coming from, that Jaden Daniels will outscore Anthony Richardson, and he's a way better pick in fantasy, a really good late-round QB target this year. Anthony Richardson, just such a small sample size from his rookie season. I mean, a really exciting sample size. Really exciting sample, but definitely a concerning sample size. And it wasn't all great from Anthony Richardson. So we saw, 2 games? We saw 2 games in Anthony Richardson's rookie season where he played the full game. In both those games, he went over 20 fantasy points. And that was enough for him to go with all these elite quarterbacks. We also saw him get hurt twice, at least 2 times. It might have been 3 times. And we also saw him be kind of inaccurate throwing the ball. One of his games where he played the full game, he completed 11 of 25 passes for 200 yards. Not great. That's not great passing production. So I think Jaden Daniels, from a passing standpoint, is a little bit safer of a pick. He's going way later, too. And Roma Dunze did get picked here, so I won't be able to get the Bears stacked together with Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. I do really like where Roma Dunze is going in these best ball drafts. I think all these receivers have decent upside. I took Deontay Johnson in the last draft I did. All right, let's take a look at the app here. We got Kenneth Walker as the top running back. I don't need to reach for him yet. Hopkins, I think I'm going to go Hopkins. I've definitely been taking a decent amount of DeAndre Hopkins. But, oh, man, this team already so old. Can I really get the average age up even higher with the DeAndre Hopkins pick? I'm going to do it. I'm not going to overthink the age thing. There's plenty of receivers here. At least one of these 3 receivers is an exception to the age rule. At least one of these guys, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, my 3 last receiver picks. And Mark Andrews, I don't think he's even actually that old. All right. Brian Thomas gets picked, of course, so I can't get the Jag stack. I'm probably going to go JSN with this next pick. Pass on these running backs and go a little bit of a hero RB build compared to the build I did last draft. I also don't hate trying to get Najee and Jalen Warren stacked together. I don't have any Chiefs here, though. Yeah, we're going to go with JSN and leaning heavily into these wide receiver builds. I got 5 receivers through the first 7 rounds, which is ultimately what I like doing. At least 4 receivers through the first 7 rounds of these best ball drafts where people go crazy with these receivers. D-Hop is still a 1,000-yard receiver. Yeah, I think so, too. I just drafted him in this draft I'm doing live on YouTube. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Oldest best ball team going. Yeah, this is probably not the strat. I think when we look back at who wins Best Ball Mania, it probably is not going to be the team that has an average age of 30 years old. But I also think that like some of these older receivers are getting discounted probably a little bit too much. DeAndre Hopkins has commanded an elite target share basically his entire career. I think the Tennessee Titans passing attack is one I really want to invest in. In the Walter Picks app, we have DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley projected extremely close together. I can actually show this comparison here on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm telling you, a better live stream viewing experience is on YouTube. The link to the YouTube is right in the TikTok bio. Let's pull up Hopkins and Ridley here. Ridley's going a decent amount earlier than Hopkins. We got Hopkins for just slightly more points in the Walter Picks app per game than Calvin Ridley. I think like who's going to lead this team in touchdowns is going to be one of these two guys. It could easily go either way, but when you look at the difference in average draft position, where did Calvin Ridley go in this draft? Yeah, Calvin Ridley went in the end of the 5th round. I got DeAndre Hopkins at the end of the 6th round, so almost a full round apart here from Ridley and Hopkins. But we have Hopkins projected above Ridley, a better floor, a slightly lower ceiling. That makes a lot of sense to me based on how Ridley's probably going to get used in this offense. But guys, it's going to be a completely different Titans offense. One of the biggest transformation of changes from one year to the next of how the offense is structured is going to be the Tennessee Titans. They're going from years of this Derrick Henry ground and pound offense to an entirely new system under an entirely new coaching staff with no Derrick Henry and 2 pass catching running backs. They get Calvin Ridley. They signed Tyler Boyd, and they also still have DeAndre Hopkins, Will Levis coming into year 2, also kind of a DGAF quarterback where he's willing to just huck it up. Like I think there's going to be some spike weeks in this offense for sure from the passing game, as long as Will Levis can take a bit of a step forward from what we saw last year. I've been drafting a ton of Trey Benson. I have been drafting a ton of Trey Benson as well. Yeah, I can't stop drafting Trey Benson. And I have a note about it above me on the TikTok live. I'll keep going on these. So my next note, Jaden Daniels will outscore Anthony Richardson is one of my spicy takes. Marquise Brown, I think, will be a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football. At a minimum, he's going to have top 10 wide receiver spike weeks, which is why I'm more than happy to get him in these best ball formats. He's got a long history of earning targets. He has earned those targets, and now he gets to earn them from by far the best quarterback of his career with Patrick Mahomes. All right, we're back on the clock. Jake Ferguson is sitting there. I already took Andrews, but we're pick 93. I can't help myself. Even though I have Mark Andrews, like I'm not even going to hesitate. I'm going to take Jake Ferguson, who's I think by far my most rostered tight end so far. I'm willing to go bully tight end if I see tight end slide like this past their average draft position. I'm going to take them. And similar to what I did last draft, I think I took last draft Brock Bowers and David Njoku, so a little bit later of the double tight ends, but I don't need to worry about tight end now the rest of the draft. And I feel pretty good about my chances to lead this entire league in tight end scoring as well. And I also drafted Saquon Barkley, which is part of the reason I didn't hesitate much there. Get that Eagles-Cowboys Week 17 stack as well. Running back's starting to look a little bit sketchy for me, but Trey Benson's on the board. Tony Pollard's on the board. I'm fine with either of those guys. None of these guys have taken running backs, though, so both these guys might get sniped as I say that. Jajay Spears is probably my most drafted running back, too. And, man, look at all these quarterbacks just sitting here. I don't have any Bengals. I really don't like Joe Burrow. Without sacking him, I could take Jermaine Burton later. Something to consider. Jaden Daniels is sitting here as I've been hyping him up this whole live. Joe Burrow. I probably would go Dak, though. Yeah, we got Burrow and Dak pretty close here. Both 19.1 points per game. We got a bunch of quarterbacks together here in this part of the draft, but I did just take Jake Ferguson, and I do have Saquon, so I can complete that Cowboys-Eagles stack. With Dak, I think I'll probably go Benson first, though, and the Cardinals play the Rams in Week 17, so I can get Cooper Kupp and Benson stacked against each other. 5 picks after ADP for Dak, or reach a tiny bit versus ADP on Trey Benson, but I only have one running back right now. I really think the upside is probably a bit higher for me with Trey Benson than with Dak. I can make up for it with 3 QBs. We're going to do it. We're going to go to Trey Benson over these quarterbacks, and maybe one of these quarterbacks will slide. Probably not, but we will see. I'll bring back the draft board here on the YouTube Live. How will JJ be better this year with new QBs? Yeah, so, I mean, he was fine last year with Nick Mullins. I think both Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy will be better than Nick Mullins. Justin Jefferson averages 22.1 fantasy points per game with Nick Mullins last year, and it was the 4 or 5 game sample size there. Man, Dak is sliding so far. I'm at least ahead of the person with CeeDee Lamb, but no, he's got to get picked. I assume there's usually at least one person in these drafts. Jordan Love gets picked before him. Man, There's usually at least one value hound in these drafts that's either auto picking and just taking the top ADP available, or just like can't contain themselves. Like I just couldn't contain. I'm a little bit like that too. I couldn't contain myself with Jake Ferguson, even though I already had Mark Andrews in this draft. But there's usually at least one person that's just not going to let someone slide like too far in these drafts. I'd be pretty shocked if Dak slid all the way back to me. This guy doesn't have a quarterback yet, so we could see him go right here. But I do really like Trey Benson. James Conner has never played in a full season in his entire career. So you're getting like, there's a historical precedent here that you're going to get minimum one week from Trey Benson where he heads into that week projected as a top 10 running back and probably as a top 10 running back in that at least 1 week that James Conner misses. If James Conner misses more time, Trey Benson's just going to win your fantasy football league. Trey Benson is a younger, faster, better pass catching version of James Conner. He's like a little smaller. Wow, Jaden Daniels goes before Dak Prescott. What is going on in this draft? Someone's got to take Dak Prescott. If he slides all the way back to me, that would be astounding. What would that be, like 25 picks past his average draft position or something? I don't think I've ever seen that in any of these drafts. I've done like 150 of them. I think Blake Corum is similar to Trey Benson. Like I'm a little less confident that Blake Corum will have the standalone value in PPR that Trey Benson will have, but Blake Corum also just such a clear path to being a league winner. He's one injury away and he wins your league. Like he is going to be Kyren Williams 2.0 if Kyren Williams goes down. But I also think there's like a real chance that we see something a little bit different from Sean McVay this year. There's only a few times of year where NFL teams, and there goes Dak Prescott from the one team that hadn't drafted quarterback yet other than me. I feel like I fell behind too much in quarterback. I just couldn't pass up on Trey Benson after going tight end. This is what happens when I take two tight ends early. I could have taken a running back when I took Jake Ferguson and then got one of those elite quarterbacks that was sitting there. But I still think I'll be able to piece this together late with 3 QBs. Trey Benson is definitely a guy I want to invest in, though. So I'm not totally down this. Okay, let me get to these last two. So the last two spicy takes before I get on the clock. Deshaun Watson, I think he can still be a top 8 quarterback in fantasy football. It's been a long time since we've seen that. I might end up trying to get him in this draft. Maybe I'll take Judy, honestly, this pick. Try to set that stack up for later. And Dallas Goedert sitting there. Obviously, I can't go with him. Let me stop looking at these. I don't want to go with Brock Purdy, or I guess I could go Lawrence because I have a Titan, but it's really just not worth it. I'm just going to get Judy now and try to set up this Deshaun Watson stack. Deshaun Watson's been one of my most drafted quarterbacks, maybe the most drafted quarterback for me in these drafts. And I really like, I feel a little sick about it of all my takes. Like I feel the most sick about this Deshaun Watson take because I don't really want to root for Deshaun Watson just generally. And there's so many signs that like the time has passed for Deshaun. He's been horrible for a decent amount of time. But then you look back to last season for Deshaun, and he does sort of fit this bill of players who had their season derailed by injury that are now fully healthy. And you look at the few full games we got from Deshaun Watson last year, 21.7 points, 21.2 points, 19 points, 17.2 points. He had one game. He played 5 games last year, Deshaun Watson. He only had one game under 15 fantasy points. And the other thing you get from Deshaun is actual rushing volume. He had 8 carries for 37 rushing yards in his last game. In his first game, he had 45 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. You don't get rushing volume like that deep in the draft, like anywhere. It's part of the reason I like Drake May also. But there's also with Deshaun, we have seen Deshaun Watson in his career be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. All right, Zeke is there. Austin Eckler's there. I probably need to go running back here. I'll probably keep punting on quarterback since I'm going to take 3 and try to get to set up Deshaun later on. No reason to take either of those guys. Zeke and Eckler. What is Walter saying at running back? Saying Eckler. Let's go with Eckler here. I do like Eckler as one of these other running backs that injury-riddled season, kind of sneakily injury-riddled season that people are just so down on now, but he checks a lot of boxes. He catches passes, and he can score touchdowns. And he's also fully healthy. He's one of these guys that people are giving a huge injury discount on that is just clearly fully healthy now. He's also, we've seen Austin Eckler produce in a non-workhorse role. He's never had like this massive workhorse role that we saw like at times last year, around 80% of the snaps. Like he's not going to get to 80% snap shares this season unless Brian Robinson gets hurt. Even still, he's probably going to be in the 40 to 50% snap range. He's going to be in that Antonio Gibson plus role that existed last year, but he's going to be able to catch passes, and I think he's going to be able to carve out more of a red zone role than Brian Robinson did as well. I maybe should have gone with Zeke like I did last draft. Man, my average age is going up too with this Austin Eckler pick. But I do think I don't really love getting Zeke and Jake Ferguson though, even though I have Saquon. All right, let's pull this draft board again. So yeah, Deshaun Watson, my take here is that he can be a top 8 fantasy football quarterback again. I think he's one of the better late round quarterbacks in these drafts right now. The only player I'm taking over Bijan is CMC at any other pick. I want Bijan. I think that's totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. I personally would take CeeDee Lamb over Bijan, but I think Bijan should be the 3rd pick. Like pretty straightforward for me this year. Like draft Bijan. I've been taking him a ton. I don't love to I have such little exposure to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill right now because I'm taking Jefferson over them in these best ball drafts. In a lot of cases, I'm taking Bijan over them in these best ball drafts too. This draft we're seeing it in the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can see the app here in the top left corner. This is the Walter Picks app. Check it out if you haven't checked it out. Link is in the YouTube description. Link is also in the TikTok bio. It's going to help you in your fantasy drafts. I guarantee you, and not just your draft, too, your whole season. And it's a free app. It's the best way you can support me and the entire Walter Picks brand. So definitely check out the app if you haven't yet. We have all the projections too updated for this season, and we're updating them daily as news comes out. No way people still take Pitts top 3. No. So don't take this wrong. I said that Pitts will be a top 3 tight end. I'm not taking Kyle Pitts as a top 3 tight end. I do not need to take Kyle Pitts as a top 3 tight end. And people are not taking Kyle Pitts as a top 3 tight end. He's going as tight end 7, tight end 8 right now. Sam Laporte is going over him, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid. I've seen George Kittle go over him. I've even seen Evan Ingram get picked before Kyle Pitts. So you don't need to take him as a top 3 tight end, but I think he will finish as a top 3 tight end. All right, we're about to be back on the clock. Deshaun is still there. I probably can wait at least one more. Starting to push it here. I think I'm going to go Marshawn Lloyd, get this draft age down a little bit. Do like his upside. I stacking against Justin Jefferson here too. I could also go JJ McCarthy or Sam Donald late with this Justin Jefferson stack in this draft. That's definitely an option as my 3rd quarterback. I could maybe set up the Pats stack again. I might want to start with Stafford here since I have Cooper Kupp as my 1st quarterback. Lots of options on the table still with this draft. Got to piece together the quarterback stacks in the end of these best ball drafts. Dynasty rank these 4: Nakua, Saquon, Olave, Taylor. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'd probably say Puka Nakua's first there like pretty easily. Then I think I'd probably go Olave. I feel so much safer with the young receivers than the young running backs in Dynasty in general. So I'd probably go Puka Nakua, Olave, JT, then Saquon in Dynasty. Should I keep Goff, Montgomery, Justin Fields, or Gabe Davis? Definitely don't keep Justin Fields. Justin Fields might not play this season. He almost definitely will not start at the beginning of the season. So yeah, probably Montgomery there over all those guys. All right, we're going to be back on the clock. Do I push it with Stafford? Do I take Jermaine Burton, an upside rookie receiver, try to get this average age down a bit more? I kind of think I have to go Stafford and start to build these 3 quarterbacks as much as I like the upside with Jermaine Burton. All right, we're starting to piece it together now. I don't think Stafford's going to help bring the average age of this team down. This is like literally going to be the oldest best ball mania team that exists. I guess I got a couple rookie running backs snuck in there, which is decent. Usually, too, I have noticed oftentimes when you see in Deshaun Watson goes to the guy with David Njoku as his 2nd quarterback. So I did not set up that stack at all. I maybe should have gone Deshaun over Stafford. I feel like Stafford's floor is maybe a little bit higher, but the ceiling for Deshaun is a bit higher. Let's compare these 2 guys, see if I made a mistake there. Yeah. I definitely made a mistake there, I think. Stafford gets the Cardinals, though, and I did have Trey Benson already lined up. So I do have actually a decent Rams-Cardinals stack going in week 17. I don't feel terrible about it. I also had probably the most exposure to Deshaun of any QB, so Not the worst decision, but I think if I could redo that one, I probably would go Deshaun over Matt Stafford there. But I still need to figure out a Dolphins bring back on week 17. I don't hate like Odell and Malik Washington as bringbacks at the receiver position in week 18 with the Brown stacks. Explain the first one, Jefferson over Tyreek and Chase. Yeah, so I don't feel as good about Jefferson over Tyreek, but I still think there's a decent argument for it, just based on the fact that Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the NFL and he's in his prime. And he's quarterback proof. He's already shown us he's quarterback proof. He averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game with Nick Mullins in 4 games last year. Tyreek did have better stats than Jefferson last year. So from a fantasy standpoint, Tyreek, 1, had a better fantasy season last year, and 2, has a better quarterback in offensive situation this year. But part of the reason, too, that I've been taking Jefferson over Tyreek is I'm playing in a best ball format right now where week 17 matters a lot. And in week 17, Justin Jefferson gets the Green Bay Packers in a dome game, almost certain to be a shootout. And Tyreek Hill gets the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, almost certain to be absolutely freezing cold at that time of the year. Part of the reason I've been sliding towards Jefferson a little bit more than Tyreek. The Walter Picks app, in the Walter Picks app, we do have Tyreek projected over Jefferson, which I think is reasonable. Jefferson averaged 18.4 half PPR points per game last year. Sorry, Tyreek averaged 18.4 half PPR points per game, where Jefferson averaged 16.8. But Jefferson did have more yards. There's more of the touchdowns from Tyreek, but like that definitely could continue given the two offenses and their situations this year. But also, like, Tyreek is much older than Jefferson. Like, I feel a little bit safer investing in a young receiver who's, I think, the best receiver in the NFL in his prime than I do with a aging receiver that like has somehow continued his prime for very long, but at any moment I think we could see a small decline. Tyreek is now in his age 30 season, and he has a little bit more target competition than Jefferson too. So I feel more confident in Justin Jefferson's target share and in just the fact that he's in his prime. So and also his week 17 matchup. That's why I've been leaning Jefferson over Tyreek in these best ball drafts. I'm not sure if I'll lean that way in season long drafts, but I'm definitely taking Jefferson over Chase because their numbers were pretty comparable last year, and all the same things apply to Jefferson here. All right, we could go with Will Levis or Geno. Both these guys could be stacks for me. I probably do need another running back. I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson here, potentially setting up another Drake May stack. And then I'll go Geno or Will Levis potentially next. I might take a third tight. I really shouldn't take a third tight end. I already have one stack. I think I'd prefer the better roster construction than the stack with Geno. I don't feel great about Geno Smith. I know he's next here at our quarterback projections. Felt like he regressed a little bit last year. He's had two spike weeks from him, 3 spike weeks from him last season against the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Lions, like 3 dream matchups. And he gets the Bears this season in week 17. Such a better season from him in 2022. He has one of the best receiver trios in the league. I don't think Sam Howell is going to push him at all in terms of quarterback competition, which is part of the reason I have a little bit of confidence in him. But I'm so scared of getting zeros in best ball. It's one of the worst things you could possibly do is get a guy that's not playing at the end, which I think if the Seahawks struggle, like is absolutely in the cards for Geno, like almost more so than it is for Will Levis. All right, we'll be back on the clock here in a second. Jalen Tolbert, Tyler Boyd, the top available. Baker Mayfield, I can't really take him. There's no stacks going on. I have no Carolina Panthers on this team. I feel like I got to go Geno, but I'm going to follow my heart with this one and go with Will Levis instead and get this average age down a bit more. Geno maybe will slide back to me with my next pick. We'll see about that. Someone out there probably is DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett that's considering it. But also a lot of these guys have already taken 2 quarterbacks and might not take a third. So we'll see if I can get Geno in round 16. Part of the reason I liked going with Will Levis there too is we got Tyler Boyd as the second best receiver left on the board in the Walter Picks app. And he's definitely going to be there with at least my next pick, if not the pick after that too in round 18. I've seen him slide to round 18. Tyler Boyd is like almost definitely not going to be 0 for you in round 18. I think he's like kind of has a sneaky floor and could have some spike weeks in a pretty pass-heavy offense too with the Titans. So I do not hate that pick either. AJ or Puka as a keeper, yeah, that's a really close one. I think they're going back-to-back. Yeah, in this draft, I'm doing a live draft on YouTube right now, if you're watching live on TikTok. And AJ Brown and Puka Nacua went back-to-back picks. Let me compare them in the Walter Picks app real quick. Again, if you are playing fantasy football this year, guys, you need to download the Walter Picks app. There's no excuse not to download the app. There's so many free features that are going to make you have a better fantasy season. And like you can start using them now. We have projections for every player in the Walter Picks app. The projections are free, so check that out. You can also see advanced stats in the historical game logs. There's premium content in the app, video and written, that you can see with analysis on every player. Go to the Walter Picks app. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description. I'm about to compare AJ Brown and Puka in the app right now. I think it's going to be. I'm looking at these in half PPR. It might be a little bit different in PPR. They have the same ceiling of wide receiver 2. The floor is a little bit higher for AJ Brown. AJ Brown gets a slight edge in the projection. So yeah, I'd lean AJ Brown just slightly. Last year, Puka Nacua did average more points per game than AJ Brown. It's a close call, man. A year 2 Puka Nacua, like if Puka Nacua takes any step forward, the answer is Puka Nacua. But I also think that the Eagles offense, they ended the season pretty bad. We had 7 points, negative points, and 0 points for the last 3 games of the season for AJ Brown last year. He didn't play really, got hurt at the end. But we do have a long history of AJ Brown being a dominant receiver. This is a tough call for me. I also think Cooper Kupp will be more healthy this season and maybe pull some of those targets away from Puka that he got last year. But I mean, it's a pretty safe bet betting on the guy who just broke every rookie receiving record or many of the rookie receiving records. Did he break all of them? I feel like he broke all of them, but he broke at least several of the rookie receiving records last year. And he's playing with Matthew Stafford, who is historically just absolutely peppered his top receivers. So it feels like a pretty safe bet there. Will Levis to the moon. Yeah, let's go, Will Levis. Yo, Sam, what's a good auction strategy this year? How do I join the Discord? Yeah, so the link to the Discord, you can find it. Where can people find the link to the Discord? I think it's in the YouTube. If you go to the YouTube channel, you can find it there. I think you can find it in the app too, in the settings in the menu. I should have linked it. I don't think I linked it in the YouTube description below, but someone in the chat, in the YouTube chat, can let you know where you can find the Discord channel. But I'll let everyone know in the Discord. I send a lot of my just like random thoughts, some of my drafts that I do off streams in there, but also let you know when I'm going live in the Discord too. So definitely hop in there for sure. All right, let's go to the auction strategy. Yeah, so I haven't done any auction drafts yet. I do have one of my high stakes drafts. It will be an auction draft this year. I might try to live stream that one this year. I'm hesitant to live stream some of my high stakes ones because I really need to be locked in those. So I'll have to like tune out the comments if I do live stream those. But in general, I think like a studs and duds approach to auction is pretty strong. Like last year, I did in my one auction league, I absolutely smashed. I took McCaffrey and CeeDee Lamb on the same team. And like, depending on how sharp your draft is and how many teams are in your draft, like you can actually get very usable players for very, very cheap at the end of the drafts and stack them with like just can't miss prospects, can't miss guys as long as they stay healthy, of course, which is what you're getting with like guys that are going in the first round. So I also like, I think thinking through players in terms of tiers is like the strongest approach to auction drafts. It will help you hit the right pockets and value in auction drafts too. Demarcus Robinson sitting here. I'm going to take him with this Matthew Stafford stack. And then we are going to get Tyler Boyd, hopefully with the next pick, to further stack both these quarterbacks. Demarcus Robinson's been one of my most drafted receivers, which is a little scary with where he's going in drafts. But I'll show you why, just pulling up the game logs. Like Demarcus Robinson, first of all, we've seen Matthew Stafford support 3 good receivers before. And look at the end of the season for Demarcus Robinson. I mean, he had 5 straight games. Demarcus Robinson to end the season didn't continue as much in the playoffs, but 5 straight games to end the regular season last year for Demarcus Robinson, over 10 half PPR fantasy points. Give me that all day long stacked with my quarterback in round 16, the end of round 16. Plus, he's got the contingent upside if Kupp or if Puka Nacua go down. Demarcus Robinson is absolutely gonna benefit from that. All right, we got the Tyler Boyd pick coming up next, and then I'll probably go third quarterback over running back. I'm pretty fragile running back field I got going here, though. I don't think I can trust this team with just Stafford and Levis, though. I think I need to go 3 QB. I've been leaning 3 QB, I feel like, more than I sort of have meant to. All right, we're going to go Tyler Boyd as my 8th receiver. The receiver room feels pretty strong here. I have two receivers for both of the existing quarterbacks I have as well. Also a run back with Trey Benson. I'm going to need Trey Benson to be a league winner and Saquon to stay healthy, I think, for this team, or Marshawn Lloyd to break out, or Eckler to surpass expectations. One of these running backs has got to be expectation for this team to have like a true chance. And then I think I got to go 3rd QB. Let's see what the app's saying about quarterbacks available. Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's any of these 3 guys make a lot of sense for this team. Bryce Young, I don't think I have any Panthers here, but if he slides this far past ADP and I can get him at the very, very end of the draft, I think I'll still take that. Daniel Jones, same thing. And then JJ McCarthy, I have Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold, I feel like can be considered too. I think that it's more likely than not Sam Darnold starts the season for the Minnesota Vikings. And there's for sure a chance we see Sam Darnold play like the whole season for the Minnesota Vikings, but I would bet on JJ McCarthy being the guy playing in week 17. And that's really what I care about here in this best ball draft. So I realized that I was covering my face up there with the comments this whole time. Shout out to everyone who's still in this YouTube live, by the way. This has been a longish one as I get going on these lives and build my stamina back up. I feel like I came out of the gates hot in this live stream, and I'm starting to die down energy-wise as we head into round 18 here. This is a really, really fun one, though. We're just getting started, guys. This is the best time of the year. It is officially draft season, and we got tons of these lives coming up every single week from here on out until the season gets started. We're just getting warmed up. This is just the warm-ups. We are in the warm-ups. We are in the layup lines right now of draft season. I can definitely feel it. Thoughts on Saquon? Yeah, I've done 2 drafts on this live stream, 2 real drafts, both $25 drafts each. And I took Saquon in both these drafts. I think he was the only player I took in both the drafts. I got him at the end of the 2nd round in both drafts. He is going from the New York Giants bottom 5 offensive line to the Philadelphia Eagles top 5 offensive line. And I do not think we should underestimate the impacts of that. We saw the same thing with David Montgomery last year. And Saquon's probably going to be in an even bigger workhorse role than David Montgomery was in, splitting a backfield with Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery goes out and he leads the league in touchdowns. He goes from the Chicago Bears bottom 5 offensive line to the Lions, who probably had the best offensive line in the NFL last year. And it showed instantly. Yes, surprise. The offensive line talent does matter for running backs. The touchdowns, he was 4th, in touchdowns. Last year, David Montgomery had 13 total touchdowns. Last season, Saquon's going to be top 5, I think, in touchdowns. I'm not super scared of the tush push. Maybe I should be more scared of the tush push. I still think the tush push is going to happen. By the way, I'm not in the camp of Jason Kelsey's gone, no more tush push. The tush push is, I think, probably still going to be absolutely unstoppable for the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're probably still going to do it. But I still think Saquon can get over 10 touchdowns behind an elite offensive line and in a much better offense overall. So I definitely think that's in the cards for Saquon Barkley. I don't think his passing volume will be quite as high, but I think he's going to make up for it in the touchdown column. J.K. Dobbins is sliding really far in this draft too. I've been pretty overweight, I feel like, on both these running backs. I feel like there's a story to tell with both Dobbins and Roschon Johnson about why they are kind of decent picks in round 17, round 18 of these best ball drafts. J.K. Dobbins obviously has got the injury history that I think is pretty scary. But also, he's been very good every single time we've seen him on an NFL field. He's gone over 10 fantasy points in almost all those games. And now he's on a pretty good Chargers offense with not super strong competition. I'm going to go J.J. McCarthy over Daniel Jones to get this Justin Jefferson stack. Historically speaking, you take a quarterback in the 1st round. We're going to see that quarterback be playing at some point in the season, and hopefully by week 17 for this best ball team, even though I did kind of like the value here with Dobbins and Roschon. They're not even going to get drafted. Wow. In these, maybe they actually might go back-to-back picks here to end this draft. But yeah, I do like Dobbins. I think Roschon Johnson too. He's a year 2 running back who I like to target the year 2 running backs. He catches passes. He's in a improving ascending offense. DeAndre Swift signs for the Bears this offseason, so he's probably going to be RB2. But it sounds like he's ahead of Khalil Herbert right now, so there's at least a story to tell there with Roschon of having some standalone value and some contingent upside if DeAndre Swift gets hurt. He's definitely dealt with plenty of injuries in his career and is on the older side now. And then also J.K. Dobbins, I just talked about that one. All right, let me stop sharing here on the YouTube live. Shout out to everyone in this YouTube live, guys. If you're still here and you're still consuming if you're consuming fantasy football content and it's not July yet, guys, you are way ahead and you are in the right place. I'll be back live weekly on this channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on these lives. You're watching live on YouTube. That's my time, guys. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I'll be back live soon. Good luck, everybody.